Okay, with that, welcome everyone to the May 13th, 2025 meeting of the Escondido Planning Commission. If you can please rise and join me in the flag salute. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we can get the roll call, please.
Certainly. Chair Weiler.
Here.
Commissioner Carell. Here. Commissioner Jester.
Here.
Commissioner Maccaro. Commissioner Spear.
Here.
And Commissioner Stevie.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the minutes. Anyone have any changes they would like to make or comments? Seeing none, I do. I've got just one minor change. This would be on the selection of the chair and vice chair. If we could change the last 4 words of that first sentence there, from all commissioners are present, to ensure that there is a full commission present. I just wanted to make that clarification because I said it 2 different ways at the end of that meeting. But my intent was that we have a full commission, which would essentially mean we've got 7 members up here participating in that vote. So I move to approve the minutes with that change. We can have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Spear. We have the vote.
Yes. And again, we'll be doing audio votes for this night's meeting. Chair Weiler.
Yes.
Commissioner Carell.
Abstain.
Commissioner Jester.
Yes.
And Commissioner Steer.
Yes.
The vote is 3-0 to approve with 1 abstain.
Moving on to written communications. Do we have any written communications that are not on any items that are on the agenda this evening?
None at this time, no.
Any oral communications?
We have received 1 oral communication from Mr. Alan Williams for an item not on the agenda tonight.
Okay. If we can hear that. Oral communication at this point.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alan Williams. I'm a resident of Escondido at 2250 Creek Hollow Place in northeast Escondido. Me and my neighbors were notified, I guess it's by, if you're within 500 feet of the project, and we were notified about that there would be a development really in our backyard. And one of the things I just wanted to verbalize, and we'll do much of this, there was a clear outline process that was provided to us to provide feedback during this time of consideration. But I did want the opportunity to speak before you all and share with you just a number of our concerns. We don't think someone has been out at this point to really take a look at the property in question. This is the Escondido Hare Krishna development. It butts up against the county. It's as you head out east on Rincon, the very last really piece of property within the city limits. And proposed here is a temple and 10 residential units. And my big concern is about development in this area and the inability to have a proper evacuation. I was trying to think back over the last 50 years that I've been in the city to think about any other facility of this magnitude being built in a box canyon of Escondido with a one-way in and one-way out. It's going to impact the neighbors, certainly of our HOA, Rocky Point Ranch, but also surrounding communities all along Rincon Avenue in Conway. There's a major intersection out there as well. We think it's going to be incredibly problematic. It is a high fire area, and we're going to be bringing in a group of people who say in their documents that they're going to have up to 6, well, they are going to have 6 services per day, the first starting at 4:30 a.m. And what we've learned also with the noise and so on, it's not just an indoor activity, but also much outdoor activity. So we're very concerned about this project from a noise and traffic and environmental impact. And we really want you to take a close look at this project before it moves forward. We've asked for, and I can tell you this, the city's been very responsive. I've talked with folks on this panel, also have reached out to council members and to the mayor. And so we have a lot of people that have listened to us. We've also scheduled a meeting with the commissioner's planning commission office, and they've met with us as well. We're following up with email concerns that we're going to forward them to the appropriate persons as well. So I just wanted to use my time to share this, that there are a lot of neighbors. We're starting petitions. We want to work with, certainly within the rules, and I thought this would be a good start to introduce ourselves before our item is actually on the agenda. So I appreciate the time. I've been watching this here. I have other items as well, just to run down, looking at zoning and use regulations for this.
Hold on, Mr. Williams, and I probably should have prefaced this before we started, but yeah, you are allotted 3 minutes.
Okay.
And if you could wrap it up, and it sounds like you did, and you were going to go through some issues. Now, just let me preface this. You can come back at any meeting and address the commission on any issue that you would like to.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weiler.
All right. Any other oral communications?
None further have been received unless anybody from the public wishes to speak.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on to public hearings, under the current business, we have an item that was continued, and that is C23-1348, and that is the North Ash Street Notice and Order Appeal. Are there any disclosures at this point? All right, seeing none, if you could go ahead and give a presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Weiler, Commissioners. My name is Veronica Moronis. I'm our city planner, and with me this evening is Brenna Miller, Deputy City Attorney, who will be available to answer questions as well as myself. So the item before you, item number 2, is the continuance of the appeal of a notice and order to abate a public nuisance located at 1004 North Ash Street. So as you all may recall, the Planning Commission's action this evening is to determine the appeal request before you this evening. The appellant's request is to overturn an issued notice and order to abate a public nuisance. Staff's recommendation is to deny the appeal by adopting Resolution 2025-05 and upholding the issued notice and order. At the April 8th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting, there was a vote of 4-2 to continue this item to tonight in order for the appellant to work with staff to abate those issues identified in the notice and order. So contextually, the property in question is located at the northeast corner of Ash and Lincoln. It's a single-family zone, and it's surrounded generally by single-family residential and comprised of a single-family residence, a detached garage, and a detached ADU. Just generally background, the approved detached garage conversion to an accessory dwelling unit did occur back in 2018. Subsequently, 4 years later, the property owner came in with a request to build a new detached ADU and convert the garage, which had been previously converted in 2018 to an ADU, convert it back into the garage. That was approved and carried out for the construction of the detached ADU. In 2023, the Code Compliance Division did open a case due to observed violations of work, specifically certain construction conducted without proper permits. And then in 2025, a notice and order to abate a public nuisance was issued, and the appellant filed a timely appeal subsequently thereafter. The code compliance issues, this is a general timeline stemming from late 2023, where a notice of violation was issued by the Code Compliance Division, and the property owner was given a deadline for compliance in January of 2024 to obtain those permits necessary to legalize the unpermitted construction. In February of 2024, an administrative citation was issued, and then subsequently throughout 2024, additional complaints and inspections occurred. And finally, again, we get to notice an order to abate that was issued in 2025. The Planning Commission is seeing this item as a result of Chapter 6 of our Escondido Municipal Code, which defers the appeal process or routes the appeal to the Planning Commission for decision-making. Attachment 1 of your staff report covers all of the appellant's submitted appeal materials, and the Planning Commission's ultimate decision this evening could be appealed to the City Council, either by the appellant or a member of the public, or by the City Council themselves. So as noted in the associated documents of your staff report, the appeal includes information responding to that notice and order, and identifies various sections throughout the Escondido Municipal Code as to how the observed items constitute a public nuisance. All of that is wrapped into Attachment 1 of the city's documentation outlined as part of the staff report. So to date, between April 8th and tonight, the appellant has taken certain actions to abate certain issues. So on April 29th, there was a property inspection and conducted by city staff. And prior to that, the appellant contacted city staff for clarifying questions to obtain information necessary to abate certain issues. And then they did submit on May 1st a building permit application to go through the building permit plan check process for some of the outstanding issues. Attachment 2 of your staff report identifies which issues are still outstanding and what issues have been abated. So to clarify, there still are a few outstanding issues in order for the property to come into compliance. Specifically, the remaining next steps for abatement would be for the appellant to schedule final inspections with our building division and code compliance division to inspect the demolition that was taken to revert the garage back to storage in compliance with a prior building permit submitted in 2022. And then to also receive a building permit, which means the building permit is issued by the building division and then final inspections occur subsequent to the issuance for the change of a window in the detached ADU that is proposed to an exterior door or is an exterior door, and installation of a water heater for the primary residence. So that's what was submitted on May 1st and is currently under the plan check process with our building division. So based on the steps taken and the current still outstanding items, staff recommend that the commission take action on the requested appeal and uphold the notice and order by adopting Resolution 2025-05, denying the request to appeal the notice and order. And that concludes staff's presentation, and we are available for questions. We also have staff from our code compliance division, our building division, and our fire department present as well.
Okay, thank you. I think at this time I'd like to hear from the appellant, and I believe the appellant's attorney would like to speak on this item. He's also requested, as a part of his 10 minutes, 2 minutes at the end to address any outstanding questions that may not have been answered.
Thank you. Thank you guys for everyone for having us back here. I think it was a great, went a long ways, quite frankly. The first thing I want to indicate is if you refer to the staff report, and actually even today's, it's posted, it indicates that we're here for a substandard building and unsafe structure. It's just not the case. It's a substandard building, and it's even in the notice, if you guys want to look at the actual notice itself that was March 5th. But they refer to this unsafe structure multiple times. I think it's very misleading, quite frankly. It's on page 8, for example. It's on page 11, for example. It's on page 14, for example. It's just very misleading, quite frankly. There's nothing that was unsafe at his property. And we wouldn't even be here if it had just been the 2 items that were actually, that needed permits. And people make mistakes. I made a mistake last time. I thought a water heater doesn't need a permit. It does. My mistake. So maybe these unsafe structure words, maybe they're just a mistake, but it just is unusual. Nevertheless, again, we wouldn't be here if it was just 2 items. If my client, they told my client, you need to do the door, obviously, and you need to have a permit for the water heater, okay, we're not here. The fact of the matter is there are 10 other items of these 12 items that just did not exist. They say that we abated them, and we cleaned them up. We didn't. They didn't exist. Items like the fire extinguisher. We had fire out there. They said that, yeah, no fire extinguishers were even required because it's a single-family residence, yet that made it on the list. They indicated that the structure, the garage, the original garage, wasn't converted back. In fact, it was. It was converted back to what John Levy, or I don't know how to pronounce his name, had told them to do. He said, take out the heating unit and something else. Took out the heating unit. We went to a meeting with this young lady and Mr. Anthony Mullins. I can't remember the date of it, but she pulled out a diagram that showed the original structure, the original garage, and then the ADU. And there were some, I'm not an architect, there were some dashes around where it needed to be removed, and it's in there. It says, and it is in the little key, it says, this means it needs to be removed. Mr. Levy didn't tell him this is what it means, and Mr. Levy specifically said when he was there approving the ADU and telling him to put this back to storage, how to do it. And he just followed Mr. Levy's advice or recommendation, and he is the head building inspector, I believe, or was? John LeVay. Again, we wouldn't have been here. It's been very expensive for my client to get here to refute all of those items that never existed. They're saying that because they don't exist now, that we remedied them. Again, it's just not the case. We had this inspection, a re-inspection on the 29th, and it showed everything that was there. Anthony and John, they both indicated, yeah, there are doors that are locked. We're allowed to have doors that are locked. Every house has doors and they have locks on them. They saw they didn't see any wires exposed, by the way. They saw all of the plates that were where they were supposed to be. They saw I think all but one fire alarm, and those get taken down by the tenants. It really isn't my client's fault that they get taken down. And if there were some dangerous situation, I think the exposed wires is the biggest one, I think, for me anyway. And if that's a really unsafe problem, why weren't there any pictures in their horde of pictures that show that? Why weren't there any pictures that showed no fire alarms, no CO2 inspection detectors? The pictures don't show what they're alleging. They do show that there's a door, we get that, and that there's a water heater that was replaced. However, beyond that, those 2 items, again, if those 2 items were just noticed, my client would have been in and just given the permit like every other time that he goes and gets permits. I think it's patently unfair for him to be accused of all these things and then them say, oh, he fixed them. We didn't. He didn't. They were already done. Not to harp on the whole idea that we are not even to be here in front of the Planning Commission because we aren't here legally. They did not provide due process according to the code that they cite, specifically 6-488. And that's what I did provide you guys in the letter. I hope you guys read the letter, the follow-up letter that I provided with the attachments because I highlighted everything for you guys. I reserved a couple of minutes afterwards this time because I know last time there were some misstatements. Again, it might have been by mistake, but when I indicated that you guys are allowed to approve, deny, or change, modify, city attorney, our assistant city attorney said, no, you can approve or deny. That's just not the case. It's in the code, and I provide that for you guys. Another one was if this can all go forward, as long as someone was duly noticed. My client was duly noticed. You guys can go ahead forward with it, but you can't hold it against my client because he was not duly noticed. To that, we know that he was not noticed because although it was certified, they just provided a certified copy of the mail. They did not provide the proof of service, and that is required under the code. If you want to reference that, I'm happy to go over that with you, but it's in the code. It's highlighted. It's in the documents that I provided for you guys, specifically. section. Oh, the other thing was definition of shall and may. They shall do this proof of service. They shall do it by certified mail. They did a couple of the items, but they did not do the proof of service, quite frankly. And that proof of service needs to be provided with and at the time that they mail it out. That wasn't done. And so my Exhibit C to this most recent document I provided it demonstrates the proof of service, section 6-488-3. The notice and order shall be documented at the time of service by a declaration under penalty of perjury executed by the person effecting service. He didn't do it. He didn't provide it. He didn't attach it. Although he knows how to do it because he's been shown to do it, he did do it on February 1st, which we showed you guys that last time. A letter in the staff report dated February 1st, notice of intent to assess reinspection fees. He did attach a declaration and proof of service. That's the proper way to do it. He just didn't do it this time. So we're not actually supposed to be held accountable in this planning commission. And with that, I'll submit and reserve a few minutes afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think at this point, let's, before we have the public, anybody from the public speak, if we can have questions of either staff or the appellant at this point, and then we'll move on to public testimony. All right, Commissioner Jester, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess this is a question for the assistant attorney. How many if a person did not permit something that needed or required a permit under the code, would that be considered a nuisance?
Can you hear me? Good evening, Commission. Yes, so that is a public nuisance under our municipal code. The municipal code, Chapter 6, Section 13.1, or 6-13.1 requires permits for construction or alteration of buildings, structures. It's pretty broad. And Section 6-12.2 provides that any failure or refusal to obtain permits, which is required for construction or alteration of buildings or structures, is a public nuisance.
Thank you. I guess then we could establish that failure to get the permit for the water heater constituted a public nuisance?
Under the municipal code, yes.
Thank you. That was my question.
Any other questions of staff? The only other question that I have, and it's more of a confirmation, was I believe that noticing was provided to the appellant, and I believe at the last hearing we established that that was an appropriate notification. Since the time of that last hearing, has there been any new discovery that would dictate anything otherwise?
I can answer that. No, there hasn't been anything since that affects the notice. And as at the last hearing, the proof of that service was shown to the commission. It was a receipt from the post
Okay.
office.
I don't have any other questions of staff or the appellant. Anyone else? All right, at this point, we'll move on to some public testimony. I believe we have two speakers. Alex? Sorry.
Sorry, I was fiddling with the controls. Yes, we do have two speakers for this item. First would be Mr. Rick Seiler.
Hello.
And then you,
Good
I'm
evening.
sorry, and you've got, because you're a part of the appellant, you've got 5 minutes to speak. Normally, it would be 3 minutes for the other public speakers.
Sounds good. Thank you. And thanks for your time tonight. This entire case seems like a colossal waste of time, but most of all, it's a waste of my money. I remember last time Barry said we're all going to end up in the same place regardless of whether the appeal gets appealed or denied. And I remember, I think it was, who was the other gentleman? David Barber? I don't think he's here tonight. But at the end of that meeting, he said, we tried. I don't know if you guys caught that, but he said, hey, Barry, we tried. And I was just kind of taken back by that and just wondering like where that would come from. So I don't know if anything I say tonight can actually benefit me, because it hasn't thus far, but I'm going to give it a shot nonetheless. So as Steve said, we wouldn't be here tonight if the two items, which were the door and a water heater. Honestly, I've been in this business for quite some time, and I didn't know a water heater. It was an emergency water heater that I had to replace for a tenant. And I asked John LeVay about this the other day, and he said, oh yeah, you should have gone and gotten a permit after you installed it. I didn't know that. But I will say, and the gentleman, Carrie, and I think it was Mr. Steve, who isn't here this evening, but Mr. Steve pointed out that this case cost me $3,000 just for you to listen to me, for you to listen to my attorney. So I do appreciate you listening, and this case is it's costing me tens of thousands of dollars. So it's $3,000 just for tonight. It's another $5,000 that the city hit me with yesterday to wrap the case up. I just want to, I guess, at a certain point, I want to know from the city attorneys if there's ever once been another individual like me that has ever been in this position, ever, where the city has basically formed a witch hunt for a perfectly good property. But to go back to the specific item, which is we wouldn't be here if it were if the 12 items that were alleged in this giant search warrant, there were actually 2 items: a water heater that I didn't realize that I needed a permit for, and a door. So I've since submitted the paperwork to get the door approved and the water heater. I've paid the fees. So all of that is finished. I've done everything. So when it comes to, I would like to know from the city what items I haven't done at this point, because when Mr. Mullins and Mr. LeVay went out to look at the property, they were almost snickering at each other, going, why are we here? And I was shrugging, going, I don't know why we're here either, because you can see many of the items, and I didn't do anything, actually, nothing. I didn't fix any items that they said that needed fixing. As a matter of fact, Mr. Modulin, the fire chief, he called me April 18th to say, Mr. Zeiler, I'm sorry. He didn't say I'm sorry. He said, Mr. Zeiler, in all the chaos of the search warrant, where there were 9+ people there, including 4 officers, but he said, in all the chaos, I thought your property was multifamily. My property isn't multifamily. It's a single-family home with an ADU. Nonetheless, he called and sort of, I appreciated the fact that he called me and kind of manned up to the fact that there was a mistake made. No big deal. But the point is, it would have been nice if he had told the city to to respond to that in writing, because I have all of these items, and they're all made up, except the
Okay.
two.
Mr. Zeiler, if you
Yes.
could wrap it up.
Oh, yes. Anyway, my son is home from college. I'd like to give him a second or a time
Okay.
to speak, and I appreciate you guys listening, so
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, just keep in mind, you got 3 minutes. There's a timer right up there.
Understood. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Good evening. I would like to thank you guys for being here. And my name is William Zeiler, and today I'm here to provide some sort of anecdotal evidence as to why my dad believes, in his words, this meeting is a waste of time. So my parents have owned the property at 1004 North Ash Street since I was 9 years old, and I've seen it be developed into, from what was a very ugly, rundown property into what is now a beautiful home and ADU that can be rented out at an affordable price to many people. And furthermore, my parents have taken great measures to take care of their tenants by providing continual upgrades, accommodations, and even going as far as to buying kids gifts around the holidays. So what I see is my dad is really trying to do good for the people of Escondido and the city alike, but unfortunately, I don't think that this treatment has been reciprocated to him. And it's to a point where over these past several months, I've seen the continual harassment of my dad, and it's causing him so much stress in his day-to-day lives. I heard that during his last meeting, my dad got visibly angry and upset with everyone, and I can attest that lately he's been very stressed out. He's on the phone 24/7, and he's texting people 24/7, and it takes away from time with being with his family. And although I haven't been around as much because of college, I've read the documents, the letters, and the claims, and seen all the footage of investigations and more. And logically, this just does not make sense to me. It seems like there's a lot of time, money, and attention being used by the city to attack what is a perfectly safe and suitable home to live in. I've spent a lot of my life in Escondido and have seen a lot of the homes here. For the life of me, I cannot believe that the city wants to spend this much time and effort on what is, in my opinion, one of the best constructed and most efficient modern rental properties in Escondido. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter? All right. Seeing none, if you would like 2 more minutes to kind of wrap up anything that you have, and then we'll close the public testimony if we don't have any other questions.
Absolutely. Thank you again. I really need to emphasize the fact that we're getting this proof of service confused. She says she's alluding to proof of service being it's proof that we served him. That's not the case. In the legal sense, there is a document that is signed by a declarant that says, I served so-and-so and I attest to it. That's what a proof of service is in the legal sense. Again, if you look at their staff report, page 28 and 29, it's the February 1st letter, notice to assess, and attached to that is a declaration of service by mail. That is a proof of service. Proof of service is not just the certificate that you get from the USPS, and that was not provided. As to date, it has not been provided. Not only that, according to the code, it's supposed to be executed by the person effecting service and shall be documented at the time of service. That's what this letter does, the February 1st one. It has never been shown to us, never been provided to us. And if you guys can give it to us, we would love to see it. The fact is, it's never been done, and that's why we should not be here. He never received due service. He's never been duly served. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff? Go ahead, Commissioner Jester.
I have a question of Mr. Zeiler.
Mr. Zeiler, if you want to come on up.
So I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you to your son. I feel your pain.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner.
I do have to ask a question. I know that it's costing you a lot of money for this to go on. Was there ever a time when this all started where that cost could have been mitigated? I mean, from a business decision point, is this
Commissioner
worth it
Jester,
or not?
I think last time, and this is, I got fired up, and I'm going to try not to tonight, but when I have the code
We
enforcement.
call that passion.
Yeah, thanks. When I have the code enforcement team going to my property, harassing my tenants, and then my tenants are harassing me and threatening me with litigation, it's my duty as a landlord to make it stop. So could it have? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. We'd probably have to ask the city. But when it comes to a search warrant, an actual search warrant, where they showed up, Commissioner Jester, they showed up with this many people, and they can't provide photos of the health and safety violations that allegedly occurred. They can't provide any photos of this. I always wonder, like, where's your case? And where's your upside on this case, too? Like, I'm trying to ask myself, why the city, where does their upside occur? Because I provide the housing.
Yeah, and I appreciate
Yeah.
that. My question was, and maybe I should rephrase it, was there ever a time where you could have made the decision not to put up $3,000 to appeal this case? Was there ever a time? That's a yes or no question.
Yes, there
Okay,
is.
thank you.
There was a time. Yes, but and I have to
I
reply to
understand.
that. So
I got your reasons why.
when you're accused of something that is absolutely fictitious, I feel that no amount of money is. Nobody's going to call me a liar. Nobody's going to prove me wrong because it didn't exist. So
then
the answer is yes. If I would have just let it go, I could have let it go. We all could have saved our time, and I could have. Honestly, I don't know the.
So then
the
you
upside.
considered it money well spent.
Honestly, I'm not sure at this point because
Well,
I'm tens of thousands of dollars
You were
into
complaining a
it.
minute ago
but-
about whether it was, it
Yes.
was costing you a lot of money. It sounds to me like you felt like it was your duty
Correct.
to spend the money.
That's
to
correct.
make it happen.
Yes.
So, okay, just curious.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, Commissioner?
How many units do you have on the property?
How many
Units? How many rental units do you have?
in San Diego?
What total at that residence, like the one we're talking about?
I have 5.
5 rental units. But it's a single-family residence.
That's correct.
So
Yeah.
you should have 2 rental units. Because your ADU should be 1 family, right? Not 3 units?
Well, actually, that's not the case, and I argued this, and I'm traveling to Sacramento tomorrow to discuss it, to write into law.
But in our code, currently, the ADU should be 1 family?
No, I've never seen that code, and if you can show me that code.
I'm asking, that's why.
No, I'm sorry.
So you're saying
Commissioner.
you have a single-family
I have a-
residence with 5 units?
That's, so in college, I lived
This
with.
isn't college. I lived in college, too. I had 100 fraternity
I
members in a
rent,
house.
I rent out
It's
bedrooms.
highly illegal.
What'd you say?
I said what we did, not you.
Oh, got it. So I rent out bedrooms to people. That's it.
Okay.
I rent out bedrooms. So when you say units, there's 2 units on the property, but 5 people.
But your ADU is currently segmented based on pictures into 3 units that say A, B, and C.
That's correct.
So 3 kind of separate addresses.
That's correct. They're rooms. I rent out rooms, and their lease state that they're rooms.
Okay, and the Escondido Municipal Code provides for that?
Yes, it does. Actually, Mr. Carell, Stephen Jacobson, the code enforcement agent for the city of Escondido, was the one who brought that to my attention. He's the one that gave me the idea to do this. And now, like I said, I'm traveling to Sacramento to try and get it written into so that they could define it a little bit better.
And then my second question, can you bring the list of the things like the 2018, 2022, all those things up? So you had commented that the whole reason we're here is because of two things. But according to the document that the city has given us, it's multiple things over years, right? So you did something in 2022, then in 2023, they had a code enforcement, and then they came out and inspected. So it's been quite a while of multiple things.
It really hasn't been
Okay.
multiple things.
I mean, the evidence
So-
looks differently to me.
Well, let's go, can we go through it?
I mean, we've been through it. I mean, I don't
But
need to
no,
go through it
I'm
again.
trying to ask you what the code complaints were in because in 2018, I converted
Well, there's no
these.
code complaint there. I'm just saying, like, it started a while ago. It wasn't just these two things.
That's correct. It
Yeah.
did start a while
Okay,
ago.
that was
Yes.
my only point. We're not here just for two things. We're here for a continuation of a process that's been
Yeah.
years in building.
That's correct. It's been years in the building, and what the real issue is, Commissioner, is that the city doesn't like the model.
It's possible.
That's the whole gist.
I understand.
Commissioner Jester, you have a question? Hold on.
Thank you.
Before you go on to use it. Do you have any
I'm
other
good.
questions?
No.
All right,
Okay.
Commissioner Jester.
This is a question, and I don't know if you could answer it, either Dare or the assistant attorney. If you have a single property and you have leased it out under a lease agreement to different individuals, does that constitute an illegal subdivision of that property? Just off the cuff.
So you could lease them out as separate rooms, and have like, a common living room or something like that. But that is not what the city believes Mr. Zeiler did. I've seen listings online where they are listed as studio units. And that is not legal under the structure of the property. It should be one main house and one detached ADU.
Okay, thank you.
Nope. Your question got answered? Okay. I'm going to ask this question first to staff, and then I want to ask the question of Mr. Zeiler. In the ADU, when I look at the plans, it looks like there is one stove, essentially 2 bedrooms. Is that currently what is in there, is 1 cooking facility, or are there 3 cooking facilities based on the inspections that have occurred?
Code has inspected most recently, so I think code compliance might be able to
If
better
we
answer
could.
that.
Whoever from staff
Whoever can answer.
would be able to answer the question.
Afternoon. Per our inspection, those units were in compliance. They were not out of compliance. So per the plans, they were in compliance. So
Okay. So, yeah, the question kind of is, are there cooking facilities in the ADU for each of those rooms? So essentially, the ADU should be a central living area with cooking facilities, and then there are 2 bedrooms.
correct.
Okay, so the question is, in each one of the bedrooms, are there cooking facilities in those bedrooms?
In the ADUs, you said 2 different things. So in the ADUs, there are cooking facilities.
1 or 3?
1 per ADU. That's what you're asking, correct?
Correct.
All right,
Not in the
let me phrase this a different way. The ADU is identified as units A, B, and C. So it's supposed to be 1 ADU.
Correct.
The appellant is saying he's renting bedrooms. So my question is, in units A, B, or C, is there cooking facilities in A, B, and C, or just in B? And if we could, maybe staff can pull up the floor plan, and maybe that would be helpful.
Yes, that would be helpful so I can describe what you're asking.
I do not have a slide of the floor plan, but we have it hard copy.
Is it in the
Page
staff report?
77. I don't need it.
Yeah.
I think it looks like this. The ADU would be the one at the very bottom. It says proposed ADU floor plan. If you're going left to right, I believe the unit numbers are A, B, and C as you go from left to right.
Yes, sir, and that's how they were on our inspection, just like this. You're
Okay.
talking about this one, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So on that inspection, it looked identical to this.
Correct. But was there a
Okay.
kitchen in each room?
Yes.
All right, wait a minute. There was a cooking facility in each room.
These, as this is listed, yes.
Okay. I just wanted confirmation on that from staff's inspection. Now, same question, Mr. Zeiler, I'm sorry. Yeah. Are there, same question.
Yes,
Are there cooking
I understand
facilities in
exactly what you're
each?
saying. The tenants are provided a microwave, and they have a plug-in cooktop. And on the per the plan, they have each unit has a kitchenette, per the plan. So they have a plug-in cooktop, and they have a microwave.
Okay.
And that's how they prepare.
All right, that answers my question. Thank you. So now question goes back to staff. Based on the makeup of each one of those A, B, and C as a part of one ADU, are we getting into the realm where the way it's been renting now is as 3 ADUs? Not 3 bedrooms? Because it seems to me like it's an ADU with a common area in the middle, 2 bedrooms. That's essentially 2 people, 2 couples, whatever, you know.
So planning might be able to assist, but basically, if the door is open to the middle room and there's egress as in a roommate situation, then I think it would be permissible for multiple people to be living there. But if the walls are sealed off or the doors are locked where none of the tenants can get through, then they're essentially being rented as studio units,
Okay.
which is not permissible in a detached ADU.
Okay. No, I get it. Commissioner Spear, do you have any questions of staff? All right. At this point, we'll go ahead and close the public testimony and open it up for discussion amongst the planning commissioners. Anybody have any comments? Or we can make a motion.
I do.
Commissioner Spear.
I would just like to review our role here today, first and foremost, and review what we were attempting to accomplish with our last action. My understanding is our role today is a simple one. It's whether to go back to the wording. The wording of our
Approver.
yeah, it's to approve. Here we go. Our role is to approve Planning Commission resolution, which would, this resolution would deny the appeal. So it's really an up or down, do we deny the appeal or do we grant the appeal? That's my understanding of our role today.
We can do one of 3 things. We can deny the appeal, approve the appeal, or we can modify.
Okay.
So essentially, those are the
3 options.
3 options.
Okay.
That's my understanding, and if I'm not correct, please, please correct me.
That is correct.
Okay. That's our role today. In review of what we were as a body attempting by the motion that carried last time, our goal was to simply punt and provide more time to continue the hearing, to continue our decision, to hopefully allow an additional period of time for Mr. Zeiler to remedy the situation and avoid the need to do anything else. As I see it, there's been an attempt to rehash the same questions that we dealt with the last time. There's been suggestions that there was impropriety on the part of the city and the professionals involved at the city. I specifically made it my goal last time to vet those allegations. We asked the inspector specific questions related to those allegations. I was satisfied by the effort of the inspector, who showed us photographs documenting what his findings were that supported his conclusions. We asked the city attorney regarding the allegations of improper serving, and I was satisfied at that time that was done properly, according to everything that I could ascertain by the attorney's words. I haven't been presented, to my knowledge, with any new information that alters that discussion or any information that changes my point of view from what we discussed last time. So to me, where I see myself on this is our role is not to add another layer to what the planning division already does in their duties as professionals, in their carrying out of their duties. I'm satisfied that they've done them well. There is an enforcement mechanism already in place. I was satisfied by the fact that this has been a long process that's gone on, and frankly, there were allegations that the city was unfair. When I look at the timing and I see December of 2023 until today, I just don't see that. I see a long process. When I asked the question regarding, have you asked for re-inspections, and the answer was no, not until recently, then I just don't see any reason to believe that this could not have been remedied already long ago simply by complying with what the city was asking. So from my standpoint, I look at our duty here today, our role, and I say, our role is simply to say, do we deny or grant this appeal or modify it? And I see no reason for us to do anything but deny the appeal. So that's my position.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jester.
Thank you. Very well said, Commissioner Spear.
Thank you.
I think we have a duty to the general public as representatives here of the Planning Commission to consider their argument as well. And while there's a number of different arguments presented by Mr. Zeller's attorney, it really seems like it's reduced down to one thing and one thing only. And that was there a public nuisance that needed to be abated? I'm in agreement with the city that there was, under the information that I got. I also don't buy into the idea that the city's got it out for Mr. Zeller. I know that it can feel that way. I think we've given him a fair hearing here. I think also that the only other question would be, was he properly served? And the fact that we're here, he was. So I think I kind of agree with you that our duty here is to uphold the resolution and to deny the appeal.
Want to make a motion?
Do you have any other
No,
comments?
I'm in agreement. I think if we're going to continue talking about it, we're going to keep saying the same thing. I think we're all on the same page.
Okay. Let me make a quick statement here, and then we can move on to a motion. So I agree. After listening to all the testimony, everything that we were able to read in the staff reports, the follow-up by staff, you know, what I probably appreciated the most out of all of this is Mr. Zeller got together with city staff, and it appears like out of 12 items, I don't know, 10 got resolved.
They didn't exist. They didn't exist, Commissioner.
Sir,
Stan Wheeler.
sir,
They didn't exist.
sir.
They were made up.
Miss,
Well, I'm going to lose the appeal anyway. They were made up. The items were simply
all right,
made
Mike,
up.
I'm done with my comments. I'm ready to make a motion. I'll move to approve Planning Commission Resolution Number 2025-05, denying the appeal and upholding the issuance of the notice in order to abate a public nuisance.
Second.
We have a motion by the chair, a second by Commissioner Spear. Can we have a vote?
Chair Weiler,
Yes.
Commissioner Correll,
Yes.
Commissioner Jester,
Yes.
and Commissioner Spear.
Yes.
The vote is 4-0 to adopt Resolution 2025-05, denying the appeal.
All right. Thank you, and
Thank you for
all.
nothing. And thanks for
We'll,
wasting all
we'll,
of my time.
we'll,
and
we'll
my
move.
money.
You're not helping yourself, sir.
You're not helping yourself, sir. Crooks. You're a crook.
Hey, vacate,
You are a crook.
vacate.
Son-in-law, you're a crook. So are you. Building code, whatever you call yourself. Sorry, not you. You want Anthony? You're
We're going to call a recess here, if we can turn off the audio. Okay. If we've got enough staff back here and commissioners are all present, let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which would be PL 25-0044, which is the General Plan Annual Progress Report.
Thank you very much, and good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Priscilla Roldan. I'm an associate planner here at the city, and tonight I'm here to provide a presentation on the 2024 General Plan Annual Progress Report. Since 1965, California state law has required cities and counties to provide an annual update on the general plan reporting and implementation. Every year, staff prepare an annual progress report, or APR, which covers the accomplishments and milestones the city has achieved in the calendar year. This item is purely informational, and there is no formal action required from you all other than to receive and file this presentation. So to start with a bit of background, what is the general plan? The general plan is the city's blueprint for the future. It serves as a guiding document for how the city will grow and meet the future demand of residents here in Escondido. It guides decisions about land use, about transportation, about safety through policies and high-level goals. These policies and goals shape everyday choices made by city staff as well as decision makers. The general plan helps answer questions like, where does the city plan to build residential, housing, offices, or businesses? How much does Escondido value active transportation like walking and biking? Or how does Escondido prepare for hazards like fires? The general plan acts like a compass, and it sets direction to help guide the city's everyday decisions. So the general plan APR is a series of 3 annual progress reports provided by staff. APRs serve as a moment of reflection to allow for decision makers and the public to assess goals and direction. Earlier this year, staff provided an update on the Housing Element Annual Progress Report, which touched on progress towards meeting the city's regional housing needs allocation and housing objectives. Today, staff will be presenting on the general plan APR, which will touch on accomplishments for the 2024 calendar year. And later this year, staff will provide an update on the climate action plan APR, which will touch on progress towards reaching our climate goals. With the exception of the housing element APR, state law does not denote any repercussions with not providing an annual progress report within the statutory deadline of April 1st. So, Planning Commission received the 2023 General Plan APR late last year in August. This year, staff are providing it a lot sooner, and after staff presents the same item to City Council, which will be tomorrow, the APR will be available on the city's website. According to the state, there is no standardized form or format for the General Plan Annual Progress Report. However, the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation recommends cities stick to the APR's intent, which is to summarize activities of the general plan's elements. The general plan report is formatted in accordance with the general plans, the city's general plan elements and chapters. State requires at least 7 mandated elements: land use, circulation, housing, safety, noise, open space, and conservation. The city uses different nomenclature for these chapters, which you can see on your screen on the right-hand side. And in addition to the mandated elements, the City of Escondido also has 3 optional elements, or additional elements, I should say, which focus on localized programming and policies to improve the quality of life for Escondido residents. As part of this presentation, I will not be talking about every single chapter. I will just be talking about some notable things to consider and know about. So starting with housing, in 2024, the city reported progress towards meeting the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, by reaching 23% of its above moderate income housing, 3% of moderate income, 12% of low income, as well as 8% of very low income. If you recall from my presentation earlier this year, some of the developments like the Quinn Senior Housing Apartments, the Vermont Apartments, the 32-unit development on the intersection of Quince and Grand contributed to the progress to date. Some housing major development projects that you may see starting construction or being constructed currently around town include the Palomar Heights development down the street, the Quince Senior Apartments across Escondido Transit Station, the 555 West Grand development across the street from Swami's, and the Northeast Gateway right below Dixon Lake. When it comes to transportation and capital improvements, staff continued to update the mobility and infrastructure element of the general plan. That it was through the Comprehensive Active Transportation Strategy, or CATS. Staff worked on a total of 24 capital improvement projects, which included the improvement of fencing around a softball park area in Kit Carson Park. Staff also conducted extensive outreach in anticipation of construction for the Escondido Creek Trail improvements. And in 2024, Grand Avenue Phase 2 began, which includes sidewalk widening as well as streetscape improvements along Grand Avenue. By the end of 2024, about 99% of the Citricado Parkway extension was completed and the roadway was formally open to the public. When it comes to community services and recreational opportunities, there were many recreational opportunities for Escondido residents. Over 15,000 participants played in soccer tournaments. There were over 1,000 students that were enrolled in before school and after school programming. There were about 99,000 calls for service throughout the 2024 calendar year, and over 2,000 code compliance inspections conducted. Additionally, in 2024, our Escondido Library had over 200,000 library visits. There were over 1,000 programs offered, and notably as well, in 2024, there was a completion of the planning and design for the development or redevelopment of the Escondido Library. Construction is set to begin in 2025, which will basically move the services that are currently provided at the library to a satellite location in North County, in the North County Mall, and that will occur throughout 2025 until spring of 2026. That concludes staff presentation, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Roldan. Any questions of staff? Commissioner Jester.
Could we go back to the RINA slide one more time?
Which one, I'm sorry?
The RINA slide?
Mm-hmm.
RINA. Potato. Thank you. So, the regional housing needs allocation for low-income units is by 2029, I just want to make sure I understand, is 12,049?
That's the remaining regional housing needs. That we
Right,
need
that's
to
not the total.
No, right.
That's what's remaining. That's the 88%?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And the 12% represents from 2021 till now?
Yes.
Got some catching up to do there. That was my question. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions of staff? Okay. All right. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and move on to PL 22-0010, and it's the 2022 General Plan Amendment. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you tonight. I am Brooke Peterson. I am leading the consultant team that's been supporting your staff in the preparation of the amendments to the general plan. This evening, I just want to provide an overview for you, kind of give a refresher on the purpose of why we needed to initiate the general plan amendments, go through the timeline of what that effort has looked like and where we're going, give an overview of what constitutes those amendments, provide an overview of the outreach that we have conducted in order to go out to the community, have the conversations with them, and get their input, and then just what the remaining next steps are related to the effort. So we are updating the community health and services element as well as the community protection element. Excuse me. We initiated the amendment to the community protection element back in 2021, and at that time the city also initiated the update to its housing element. SB 1000, which is a bill adopted in 2016, requires when two of the elements are updated, the city then needs to incorporate either an environmental justice element or related goals and policies. So the update of the community protection element and the housing element triggered the need to then incorporate environmental justice. So those are the two elements that we are bringing forward today for your consideration and input, the community health and services and the community protection element. There is flexibility in how to incorporate that environmental justice. As I mentioned, it can be a standalone element. It can also be integrated throughout the general plan in different elements or a hybrid of both. The other reason for updating both the community protection and the health and services elements is that there's a number of legislative bills that have passed that the city needs to incorporate into its elements in order to be compliant with state law governing general plans. SB 379 from 2015 requires cities and counties to integrate climate adaptation. So we are incorporating that into both of the elements that we are working through. AB 747 from 2019 mandates that the safety element, which is your community protection element, includes climate and hazard-related evacuation route assessments. There's actually a few bills related to evacuation. SB 99 requires cities to analyze residential developments that are at risk of isolation that essentially lack two routes of egress for evacuation. And AB 1409, more recently, requires the safety element to identify evacuation locations under a range of different emergency scenarios, so not just fire, but fire, flood, etc. So just a brief timeline. As I mentioned, the community protection element was initiated back in 2021, or the initial part of the effort was initiated in 2021. It was triggered by the legislative bills that I just mentioned, along with the housing element, which was initiated at that same time. Then later that year, because of those two element updates, then efforts were initiated to update the health and services element. There was extensive work done back in 2021 to do a lot of community outreach to solicit input from the community and work with the community to develop goals and policies, get their priorities, et cetera, and to integrate that into the environmental justice background report that was prepared in August 2023. Then, just due to staffing limitations, those efforts were halted. We then picked those back up last August and have been working through preparation and kind of finishing those out, along with doing the community outreach. In addition to the legislative bills that require the updates, there's also a few other reasons for updating primarily the community protection element, the ECAP, the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, the EVAC and repopulation plan, and the community wildfire protection plan are now proposed to be integrated and incorporated by reference so that we are ensuring full compliance with state law through the collection of all of those documents working together. In addition, a little bit more information on the community protection element in particular. As I mentioned, those number of bills require a lot of additional planning and attention to evacuation planning and to emergency preparedness. There's also, we have added an exhibit here, which you see on the screen, that depicts the limited access parcels for that residential development that lacks the additional egress routes. We've also identified and added a number of goals and policies related to climate adaptation and resilience, as well as a number of hazard areas. Related to the health and services element, as I mentioned, SB 1000 is triggered when two elements are updated. That bill requires local agencies to adopt, as I mentioned, the environmental justice element or related goals and policies. I provided the definition here for environmental justice. It's the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all peoples, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, or enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. And this definition is by the EPA. There is a standard mapping tool used to identify areas within planning areas put forth by the California Office of Environmental Health and Hazard Assessment to identify the communities that are most vulnerable to population effects and to essentially identify those areas that are most vulnerable to environment or suffering from environmental justice concerns and issues. So environmental justice communities in Escondido were identified through a 4-step approach. First, starting with the CalEnviro screen, which is that mapping tool. It identifies or it maps the city and looks at the planning area census tracts that have a combined score of 75% or above through CalEnviro screen. And CalEnviro screen is a complex mapping tool that overlays a number of different, essentially pollution or vulnerability components, whether safe and sanitary housing, pollution, and a number of different things. So then it outputs a score and maps those census tracts that achieve over a 75% score. And then it also overlays a number of other things. It also overlays and maps the planning area census tracts that are at or below state median income, as well as at or below California Department of Housing Community Development's state income levels. The 4th step is to incorporate any community specific, so essentially allows cities to also apply additional criterion by which to apply and identify those areas. And in the city of Escondido's case, the ECAP identifies areas that changes that criterion from 75% above to 50% and above. So with that, this is what these are those census tracts within the cities that are identified as environmental justice communities, which really correspond to what's shown in the ECAP as the priority investment neighborhoods. So in addition to mapping those disadvantaged communities or the EJ communities, we added a number of goals and policies. We added 2 new goals, 9 new policies, and then quite a number, 84 sub-policies across a number of key categories: reducing pollution, public facilities, access to healthy foods, civic engagement, safe and sanitary homes, and increasing physical activity. And I'm not necessarily going to go through each and all of those policies unless there are questions on that. I have slides that show that, but really we've included that in as an attachment to your staff report. So I wasn't going to necessarily step through each and all of those because there are quite a few. As I mentioned, we did, yes. If I may, at the end. I think there's only a few more slides, and then I'm happy to go through any detail. Okay. So related to community outreach in support of the effort, starting way back in 2021 and through August 2022, there were over 10 virtual and in-person meetings held. City staff created a web page. There was a number of stakeholder and community groups involved throughout that process, and there was always Spanish translation materials available for everything. Staff presented an engagement plan for the effort back to the Commission in February of 2022. And as I mentioned, there was really extensive input received, and that really has gone into and informed the fabric of all of those goals, policies, and those sub-policies. More recently, after kind of reinitiating efforts, we've recently in March and April, we held a community workshop, which was just sort of a broad workshop noticed to citizens. We got about 20 members of the public to attend that. We offered everything in both Spanish and English, and gave an opportunity. We kind of gave a brief presentation and overview, and then had extensive boards with all the goals and policies for them to comment on and prioritize. Similarly, we also held a workshop for stakeholders, which are really those groups that had been involved earlier in the process and solicited their input. There was pretty much widespread support of the new goals and policies, desire for the community to continue to be involved, and really for there to be more outreach and education related to a number of components, primarily shade and native landscaping, They wanted to see, there was support for community protection policies focused on the proactive prevention of and prevention-based planning for fire, disaster, and the climate-related risks. And then primarily on the environmental justice, there really was a high emphasis on the feedback received on equity and transparency in decision-making, and just a lot of kind of across-the-board support for the environmental justice policies, primarily aimed at improving the public facilities and addressing environmental hazards. So just to let you know where we're going from today, we have drafted the elements. You have the draft goals, policies, sub-policies before you in your packet. We are also concurrently preparing an addendum to the existing general plan EIR to satisfy the CEQA requirements. We have submitted the community protection element as a requirement of state law. It has gone through careful review and coordination with CAL FIRE. It has then gone to their official board of forestry and fire protection for approval. We've also sent it to the California Geologic Survey for review. It actually went before them today. We're still waiting to hear what the vote was, but that's moving forward. We'll then be looking to come back in front of you in June for action, and then we would go to council later on in July for approval of the amendments. And with that, I'm ready for your questions.
Okay, thank you. Looks like it's been a long road and a lot of work, to say the least. Questions? Commissioner Spear, you had some questions.
There we go. Yeah, thank you for that great presentation, by the way. Just a quick question. Going back to the Cal Enviro screen, I think you mentioned, the score of 75% or above is what triggers something in terms of allocation of priorities. And then you mentioned some, and that's a big algorithm that's done outside, of course, but then you mentioned that there was some local review discretion that potentially modifies that by looking more closely at it from a local standpoint. Is that correct? That was already done?
Yes, that was already done. That's what the outputs, those maps which I showed, are the outputs of applying all of those.
Okay, so then you go from the raw algorithm output to we kind of cleaned it up and this is what we get on the right side there?
Not necessarily. The right side is just for your reference. That's actually from the ECAP. So that's not specifically or directly related to the general plan amendment effort. We're just providing that for reference to show the correlation between what the output was for the environmental justice communities and what's already in the ECAP.
Okay. Okay, so the 50 and above, how does that weigh in? Does 50 and above trigger environmental justice priority? Is that how it works?
The 50 and above, yes, by the city's ECAP definition, yes, then classifies it as an environmental justice community.
Okay, so when I look at this map on the right, just about every area is 50 and above?
The blue line, kind of dotted line, is actually city limits.
Oh, okay.
So it's really that center portion of the city that is applied.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Other questions? Commissioner Juster.
So, thank you for Brooke, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your great presentation. I did have a question regarding attachment 1, the new community protection policies. And these were a result of what Commissioner Spear just talked about, as well as the community outreach 2024 and 2025 feedback?
I will add to
How
that.
were these developed, I guess, is the
Yes.
appropriate question.
So it was certainly informed by the community outreach. I will also add that it was also based on creating policy guidance based on looking to achieve compliance with state law. So state law has a lot of requirements that we had to create policy to align with. It also then was further refined in our coordination with CAL FIRE, who had extensive input onto what those goals policies were.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, it's interestingly ironic that a gentleman earlier this evening spoke regarding a Hare Krishna project in a box canyon. And as I read Emergency Services Policy 1.15, it says that the city is to facilitate safe and efficient evacuation in collaboration with CAL FIRE, California Office of Emergency Services, San Diego County adjacent and jurisdictions, and SANDAG. The city will identify and inventory all residential developments in hazard areas identified in the community protection chapter with at least 2 emergency evaluation routes. I wonder how that's going to play into that project. I just thought it was kind of ironic. That guy was just talking about that very thing tonight, and that was a valid concern. Just a thought. Thank you.
Commissioner Crowell. No, I think my fellow commissioners had actually asked the questions that I was contemplating. I've got one other question here as a matter of process. So with the next steps, we're going to have opportunity for more public input as we progress. How many more opportunities are there going to be to have the public involved outside of coming forth to Planning Commission and City Council? Are there other workshops or anything that are planned?
There are
or
no
anticipated?
additional workshops, events planned, no. We noticed the community workshop and the stakeholder workshop as well as we could have. We're just trying to get to the end of the process, but no, we don't have any more outside events scheduled from the Planning Commission hearing for action in City Council.
Okay, and then the only other question was in regard to, the process that we have to go through, which is, Board of Forestry and Fire. They need to have their review and comments to us. But it ultimately gets to the Office of Emergency Services, where they review this after we've adopted it, then they review it. I mean, do they get an opportunity to review it beforehand, so we're not giving it to them and then they got to come back and say, oh, we have comments? I just don't know the process. I was looking for some clarification.
No, we don't anticipate getting comments from them. That's primarily CAL FIRE's responsibility, is to do the refinement and the changing and the input. We've coordinated with them, as I've mentioned, very closely. And then it's the Office of Emergency Services simply receives it for reference and for filing.
Okay. And then I believe that you said that, essentially this is to adhere to the state regulations. That's why we're putting this together. Are the policies that are being proposed right in line with what the state requires? And how far are we going beyond what the state requires with the policies that have been provided?
Thank you for that question, Chair Weiler. So the community protection policies are very much in response to state mandated bills, those bills that Brooke had shown on her slide, and were finessed significantly with the CAL FIRE to ensure that what would get to the Board of Forestry would ultimately be supported by the Board of Forestry. The environmental justice policies are really built off of over about, I would say, at least over 60 hours of initial outreach, but honestly, I stopped tracking outside of work hours when I hit 40. So those policies are not as formed by specific state mandates in the law The Senate Bill 1000 dictates topical areas that must be addressed. Those are the safe and sanitary housing, public facility access, healthy food access, civic engagement, reduction of pollution, et cetera. But the specific policy language themselves was informed by the community being educated on these topics and what they would want to see through activity interaction, dot boards, dot activities, feedback on Post-it notes at community events, at specific targeted workshops, via our online webpage throughout that initial 2022 and 2023 calendar year. So I just want to emphasize that for the two sets of policies, one is very much in response to specific detailed state legislation, and the other is much broader and has been heavily informed by community input.
I so appreciate you providing that clarity of how these two work with state requirements. Much appreciated. I really don't have any other questions. I think a tremendous amount of work has gone into this so far. So, and it's taken a long time, and it's the way the world works sometimes, especially when we're short on staff. When do you anticipate, and you may have said this, but when do you anticipate getting to the very end?
We are looking to come back to you in, I believe it's mid-June, towards the end of June, June 23rd.
And then it goes to city council
and then
after
city
that.
council in
Got
July.
it.
Yes.
I didn't know if it was another update in June or if that is
That
when
will be for
this will
action.
be coming. Terrific. Okay, thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Anything else to staff on this one? From here, we'll move on to future agenda items. Does anybody want to place anything on the agenda for discussion as for the Planning Commission? Seeing none. Any other oral communications? Not likely.
None further have been received, no.
We've got an item here on the selection of chair and vice chair. I don't know if we have to have a vote on this or not. And following with the vote that we had the last time, which was to postpone this until we have a full commission,
Yeah.
I think we want to just continue down that pathway.
I think, yes, based on that vote, you don't need to vote again. You can just continue the item.
Okay. So, it looks like City Council had interviews. I think they're going to be making a decision. Are they supposed to make that decision tomorrow night, or is it? I didn't look at the agenda.
I actually don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Did you happen to notice?
I know that they're holding makeup interviews. I don't know if any of those makeup interviews include candidates for Planning Commission.
Okay. So likely it'll probably be a few more weeks before we see a new commissioner.
Staff will look into the general timeline with the clerk's office and try to provide an update to the commission for.
Yeah, next time would be fine. That's all right. Okay. That's it. Planning commissioners report. Anyone have anything to report? City planners report.
Yes, so we will be holding a meeting on May 27th, almost said June 27th, where there will be a current planning project brought before the commission. We're anticipating just one item on that meeting date. And then we do have several current planning projects in the pipeline, and it will probably be a pretty active summer. We do anticipate holding meetings throughout the remainder of the summer and the fall months. And I do want to just clarify that the project that was spoken upon this evening by the speaker off agenda is a project that will be before the commission within the next 6 months. So it is not to be discussed pursuant to the bylaws.
Right. For clarification, can I ask questions about the private development projects? And really, it's only what the status of one that was kind of in the process, and then it sort of fell off as far as, future things that were coming to us, and then just the location of the two that are identified. Is it appropriate to ask or not?
We have to be very careful because
I
there
know.
is in the bylaws, we're not supposed to discuss any projects that are coming through and they're not.
Perfect.
But I would suggest, I think if you reach out to planning staff for that information, you can get it that
Okay.
way.
All right, thank you for the clarification. Let's see, with that, I don't think we have anything else. Any other comments or questions? All right, this meeting is adjourned.